No one. So let's start, and people will probably just filtering in anyway, just over the intro. So welcome everyone to the GoodVision's webinar for Game Changer in the traffic industry for the public sector. We've got some special guests that are joining us on the webinar, which are going to have an open kind of discussion, and they're going to share their experience and insights of the platform GoodVision, and that's from the New Zealand Transport Agency. I have Andy Scott, and also have Haroon Terry, and basically they're going to speak about their insight of the industry, and you'll get to ask them some questions. I've also got our CEO, Daniel Stofan, who's on the meeting as well, and he's going to give us an overview of GoodVision. I'll just show you the agenda. And just for everyone that is here now, or is attending or coming in, if you've got any questions that you want to ask, or you'd like to send or give to our special guests or any of us here, you have the Q&A button that is below either below on a little bar on your screen or at the top. You can submit your questions there. They'll either be answered maybe during the presentation, or they'll be answered at the end of the presentation. So as you can see here, we've got the agenda. I'm going to go over, or I'm going to hand it over to Daniel Stofan, our CEO. He will give an intro and insights over GoodVision. And then we'll have our special guests that will have the discussion about their insights. We'll also give you a demo of the live traffic insights and an overview of what that is. So it's our new product. It is a game changer. This is why we're putting it in the webinar in the industry, because it is really focusing on instant and live data, but so much more as well, which I will go over. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So what I'll do now is I'll hand it over to Dan, and he can go through. I think if I just give you permission, Dan, I think you might be able to.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So Dan, all yours.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So again, welcome everyone. I'm Daniel Stofan, a co-founder of GoodVision and the CEO. And yeah, thank you for this opportunity to letting me do the forward to this interesting webinar. I would try to make this like intro, like not only about like GoodVision technically, but about my view of the current situation, current market, and where this is going. And I think that would be more appropriate to start with when Haroon and Chris will continue, speaking about his opinion, giving their take of where this industry is heading in this year. So 20 years ago, in 2009, for the first time in human history, more people lived in cities than in rural areas. And since then, these things haven't slowed down, obviously. And the question is, what does it mean for traffic and transportation? This is a hot topic since forever. It is simple. More people in cities means busier roads, higher risk of accidents, more pollution, more vehicles to manage, more congestion, less parking space. It's obvious that it is impossible using the same roads and transportation infrastructure what we have available to us now. It's just not possible to continue with the same methods of management, traffic control. Meanwhile, the COVID pandemic has put road traffic in a weird place for the last 2 years, with lockdown orders and more people working from home. Road traffic took an unusual dip, but actually, COVID has by no means cleared the urban streets, and this is a scary trend for traffic management. With growing city populations, how can we expect that we keep up with traffic demands where cities aren't even able to handle the COVID levels of traffic. The problem is obviously not about the volumes, but it's about the efficiency of traffic management. We founded GoodVision 5 years ago with this ambitious goal to help cities and the transportation industry to increase its efficiency via advanced technology and artificial intelligence. Since then, we have researched more than 1,000 companies worldwide and found that the vast majority of traffic data in the 21st century is still collected and used in a static, non-digital way. Traffic control systems are relying on single-purpose traffic sensors like magnetic and induction loops, which must be drilled into asphalt and provide very limited data like traffic volume counts. While we as GoodVision pride ourselves as on functioning on pre-existing traffic monitoring infrastructure, like video cameras, a lot of cities aren't even equipped with the bare minimum of them. So this is all resulting in transport planners and modelers doing most of their work by pen and paper, writing Python scripts, Excel macros, calling a myriad of data providers to get the data they need for their project. We envisioned our product as a collaborative workspace from the early stages, comprehensive, all-in-one platform where every interested party can create value, collaborate, and share the outcomes digitally. May it be traffic surveyors, transport planners, city integrators, or municipalities, or local transport agencies. And since then, our main product, the GoodVision Video Insights, became a complete SaaS platform encouraging large-scale collaboration where they can cooperate on achieving any traffic data related tasks interactively from wherever they are. It is a first of the kind solution that covers all stages of the traffic management process, from capturing the traffic surveys, from capturing the video, through the traffic modeling, calibration of traffic models, until today, to controlling the traffic in real time. And this will be one of the main topics for this webinar. Deep learning and computer vision, where our product is based on these two approaches, are foreseen to occupy more than 85% of the global market for transportation-related AI in 2022-23. And GoodVision is a pioneer of this emerging market. Transportation and traffic are running into problem that any tech-related industry run into. We've seen it many times in the last 50 years. Many decision makers would be more than willing to go from traditional methods to state-of-the-art solutions, to automation, to innovation, as we are proposing, but very often they aren't well aware of the options available. Many of us, if you remember, are fatigued by lengthy implementations of the corporate systems from 20 years ago. Imagine, implementation of the central transport management systems. The good news is that today, even the implementation of those core transport control systems doesn't take years or efforts. In 2022, many municipalities will make the push into better transport traffic monitoring infrastructure through new investments into adaptive transport systems, working with video sensors, connecting with other environmental sensors, for example. And they are generally apprehensive about the initial investments, but the data is here and it's very clear. Cameras and sensors are not only more capable than traditional methods, but they can be also cheaper. And that's why at GoodVision we have committed to properly educating the public about the value of this digital traffic data and AI-powered solutions in traffic management industry. Over the last 2 years, we hosted regular webinars like this and workshops to help cultivate the public knowledge of the industry, its problems, as well as the new solutions needed to be addressed properly. Therefore, Today, I'm very excited to welcome Mr. Harun Touré, who is an experienced principal transfer planner at New Zealand Transport Agency, and will share his view and experience from our field. And I hope you're also looking forward to hearing his take on where this industry is going. So thank you very much. And Christopher, Harun, the stage is yours.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. So yeah, I'd like to introduce our special guests. We actually got two. We've got an extra one. We've got Andy Scott as well, who's joining us, and then we've got Harun. So I'll let you two guys introduce yourself, and then as we discussed, please give us an insight to what you're doing from both of your sides, and an insight into the New Zealand Transport Agency.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Daniel. And Daniel summarized some of the challenges that we face currently, and potentially why we need to think about more creative, more innovative ways of how we can address. For example, you talked about asset utilization. The way it's being used at the moment, is it optimum? So I want to get to touch into those things and just really talk through some of those challenges and to provide some context around how this tool has actually been used and how it's added value to what we've done. And my colleague here, Andy, has been really involved in the deployment side of things as well. Anyway, so before we move on, firstly, I want to say thanks to GoodVision for all the support to the agency since we started using this tool a couple of months ago. And is it? Yeah.
Well, probably, Chris, maybe 8-9 months ago now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It came in at a critical time where we actually needed some good evidence, some good data, and I'll go into a bit more detail in terms of how it helped. But I think thanks to everybody else as well that attended this call, because I'm conscious that our time zone in New Zealand and the rest of the world is a bit of a challenge, but I think I'm sure we'll all benefit and learn from today. But about the agency, really, I think our role as a transport agency, we're a central government agency. So we have two types of networks. And here in New Zealand, the local network managed by all of the councils, and then the strategic network. So these are networks that really connecting key urban areas, connecting freight to the ports and to the very strategic. So our role is to manage the strategic network. And so, but we work collaboratively with our partners to be able to make sure that it's all of system thinking, that we do not look at what things in isolation. So, and to be able to make effective decisions or take effective actions, obviously we need understanding, we need data. We need a really good understanding of what's going on out there on our network as a starting point. And there's been some major shifts in terms of how we've consumed, how we've used data, and how it's informed the decision making. But I think I'm keen to drill down a bit more into those things. But before I hand over to Andy, just to mention, we've used GoodVision on 3 projects, very different projects. And the Brum State it's a very strategic project, really a big, complex project, where the only way we could handle and manipulate most of the data was to have a tool like GoodVision to be able to make the connections that we needed to make. And then we've used it as well on the YMAC project, where this is something that Daniel touched on earlier. It's a T2, it's an HOV lane. We are looking to make the most out of our assets. So we're trying to encourage people to travel as high occupancy vehicles rather than single occupant vehicles. So we can squeeze more, carry more people on those vehicles. And then also we've had to make rapid decisions like our normal minor improvements type projects where a situation arises and it comes to us, and we've got to quickly decide what we need to do to act. So we've used the tool in that context as well, in those three spaces. So keen to drill down a bit more and talk again as well, if we can, about AI and future of technology. And so, but as I've said initially, as interactive as best as possible. So keen to answer questions all the way through. Over to you, Andy.
Yeah, as Haroon said, three major areas that we've used GoodVision. Brougham Street was the primary one. We've got 10 coordinated intersections with significant opportunities for rat running onto council networks. There's a lead off from a motorway straight into onto an urban, straight onto this road, onto an urban road. Heavy congestion during the AM and PM peak, and we really needed to understand it. We have a big project to look at redesigning the entire corridor, and what we realised was everybody knew it was congested, but we didn't know how or where. It was just you just had to generalise it. It was just busy, you know. That was the feedback. It was, and there was significant rat running. We have a number of side roads. Some are just left-ins, left-outs, and we had no idea what the behaviours were along the corridor. So what we've had on two or three, three separate occasions, we've made use of existing traffic cameras at intersections and run the analysis on those. What we've also done is we've loaded, or we've installed cameras for short periods to analyse specific points of interest. For example, potential streets to be cul-de-saced that we couldn't see from our own static cameras. And it's provided us the opportunity, and Haroon in particular, it's whenever we're questioned, rather than we come up with a bit of a woolly, oh, it's busy, we can load the, people will say we're doing community consultation sessions, and people say, oh, it's, lots of people do that turn movement that you're proposing to remove. And you can load, and we've just been loading the tool up, have a look, run the analysis and say, look, there's 24 people a day use it, and people are stunned when in real time you're providing them with real numbers, not just generalizing. And it's really nice to see how some people welcome that, and I think some people are a little bit frustrated because they want to challenge what we're saying in the hope that we're just generalizing. You got anything else to add?
Oh yeah, so just to add, I think it's such a good point that I was looking to drill down into as well, the video, because most of our network there's coverage of video already, but we're monitoring the network. We've installed video cameras, but they're used as part of our traffic operations center. We're monitoring how the network operates, events, incidents, stuff like that. So what this has done for us is that is unlocked all wealth of information and knowledge to be able to inform the decision making. So as Sandy talked about, our starting point is always to look at where we have coverage. And if there's a gap, we'll infill it. But I think the shift that we've experienced now, and it's due to so many different factors, really. One is customer needs, expectations are changing rapidly, and we've been entrusted to make like really good decisions, evidence-based decisions that we know is going to make lives or things better for people out there. So, and then the other important component is the uncertainties around COVID and everything else. Nothing. So our old way of initially what we tend to do is we'll have a data back in 2012, say, and we'll use that as a baseline. We'll factor census data in, and then we'll project and focus that into the future. But I don't think it's going to cut it anymore because things are changing. Because you cannot predict the growth, you can't predict how people travel, you can't predict, there's so many uncertainties around. So the value of now a day one type understanding is just increased significantly in our world. So, and I think that's a very important context. But the good thing is that where the videos, we have good coverage on the network, so we can, Andy gets the video, we'll upload it into the system. And then the interaction with the machine, with the computer vision as well, I think is kind of the one I enjoy the most in a sense, because it provides an insight into the future where the human goes out, collects the video, uploads it, the machine annotates it, does its thing, and then the human comes in again, draws a line on it, and then the machine generates the data. It shows how we're interacting with AI and how it works, and it's I think is provide some insight to say, okay, where is this leading into the future? So I think overall we can talk on different. I'm hoping we can maybe go through, if there's time, the different aspects of the, not just a platform, but the data life cycle, because the value added are very different on the different parts of the cycle.
Yeah, exactly, Harun. And this is, listening to you both, and thank you for the, overview and insight from what you've experienced. And maybe we can break it down a little bit for you, Harun, first, because I remember when we started the project, your biggest struggle in everything, as you mentioned rightly, that you had either historical data or you had a huge report of numbers and all these turns and so on, but to feasibly go through that type of data is very time consuming, and you don't initially really pick out the key factors that the visual platform can give you. And as you've rightly pointed out, that you've got that data at your fingertips where you can precisely see and justify when something is not being used, as you're saying, you're cul-de-sacking some of these roads off, but it gives you probably new insights. Because I remember as well, many times when we were speaking with either Andy or yourself and with your team, that you actually started to see things that you didn't realize from other movements that give you that insight. And I think that's kind of a key aspect as well. I mean, what do you, is that something as well you agree with from your side, from when you started?
I think it's potentially the most value added component of it all, really, because really the data, the tool, was a means to an end, is to be able to understand what's going on, be able to make informed decisions. And the key thing about this network you talked about, it's the manual tasks of taking the data, trying to crunch out and do some work and trying to bring out that insight gets taken away from you. That element gets automated. Mm-hmm. So what you're left with now is trying to really do the problem solving, trying to get some good insight. It's simple things like within the one corridor, for example, you would notice that as you go through the corridor, the behaviors, the patterns, the challenges, whether it's safety, it all changes across the network. The peak periods vary across a really small section of road because people are joining in, people coming out and doing things. So those insights were valuable for us because another context is that in this particular project is it's an improvement project, and our process in the agency is to develop a business case. And this business case really starts with to say, making a case for why the current situation is not sustainable, and why, again, why you're proposing is actually going to make things better for communities and everything else. So you really need evidence to show. So where we struggled initially was about the current situation. We understand, as Andy said, it's congested, but then by how much, how significant, where is it congested? When during the day is it congested? So those questions, you need to answer those questions. You need to really have a good understanding. So this is exactly why when it all came together in one place, on one platform, and the manual efforts taken away from you, you spend a lot more time and trying to bring out insights, intelligence,
real data.
And for me, that's the biggest value, the time that it frees up to do all the other stuff.
And I don't know if this is a question you can answer, or maybe to give people the insight here that's joined the call, that compared to what you were doing, like with this manual data or trying to extract some of this information, has this dramatically reduced the kind of workload or the manual process using this platform in the sense of time and delivery of this kind of large scale project? Because I remember that the data that we were crunching, like on a large scale for all these intersections, to do that as a manual project and get all these points of data would be, a very, very long, I would say even long-term project. And I think by using the system, that's kind of really reduced that kind of time to get that data immediately that you need, because I know that it was kind of an urgent thing to get that data. Is that something that you could, elaborate on, or maybe give an insight if, how that has really reduced the delivery of the project in time-wise?
Well, I can. I think the starting point is that data collection is an expensive exercise, and I think the key thing is transforming data into information or insights, because the data itself really is not really add much value. You've got to do some work. So what it means is that there's a whole process of different steps that you need to follow from collecting the data. Really, first you've got to decide where do you want to collect data, the selection process, and what locations. And then you got to think about, how do we aggregate this data? Are we going to do it hourly, so 15 minutes and whatnot? And think about the classification as well. So are we going to break this data down? As for example, the transport system, all the different modes we want to understand. And so that element is all manual in a manual data collection process. But with this, with artificial intelligence, it's automated. So it cuts down a huge piece of work and workload, but everything has its place. For my take on it is for complex projects, you're not going to be large data size, your data collection exercises, you would have to depend on the machine to help you. Because there's only limitations to what you can actually do as a person anyway. So I think that's the thing. But then once you've done that collection element, you got to move next to the analysis side of it. Where the analysis side of it says, now I've collected the data, where I need to look at patterns. How does this movement, traffic, for example, vary over time? How does it vary over the week? And so the pattern recognition element as well comes in. And if a human looking at that versus a machine automating it, there's a huge efficiencies in some of those things. And then the final component, which is purely a human component, is those causal relationships. But what I found was really interesting, that's looking at the platform, and I think Andy can maybe has a similar experience. We're able to put together make some connections about relations, what's causing certain things. We see, for example, drivers finding shortcut. We see, for example, a pedestrian crossing being blocked off because vehicles are not keeping clear in front. And we see rat running, and that leads to a massive shock, and the network congests all the way through. So for some, because we have time to now sit down, stare at this platform for a while, try different combinations, trying to see things, a lot of the things insights came out, and we're able to use that. But I think Andy, before you jump in, the major change that we've had, because most of the decisions we make and the choices we make are all driven by what are key policy value drivers, really, I would call them. So really, we want to make the network very sustainable. We want to promote the use of alternative modes. So understanding pedestrian movement, bus movement, where the experience lies, all of that is huge value to us. And but then the new driver is a climate change. And climate change, I think we've all recognized in a sense that our vehicles, the consumption of oil, the consumption of petrol, diesel, and all of that stuff releases CO2 into the atmosphere. There's an emergency. There's so many different issues and stuff. So really, that is a really important driver for us at the moment. And that process is not automated in GoodVision. But what happened is the way we calculate the emissions, we need to understand the vehicles numbers and accurate and then apply emission factors. And so those emission that gives us what the local air quality impacts would be. So things like carbon monoxide, NOx, and all of that, and even the CO2 emissions and stuff. So the point I'm making is that with a very good foundation, with a very strong, a good understanding of the network, you'll be able to do so much. And I think that's where the insight has come in. So compared, just back to your initial question, compared to manual effort, obviously I've explained to you these significant efficiencies. It takes that manual stuff away from you, and that leads to human resource effort and leads to cost implications and all of that stuff. Yeah. So I think that's my take on it. Yeah.
Chris, maybe a quick and good example might be because we're wanting to widen the corridor. The natural the first option we'd have would be to look at property purchases along the corridor, which is uncomfortable and extremely expensive. And what the tool allowed us to do was to look at options. So in particular, turns, left turns, right turns, are they redundant turns or infrequently used turns? So we could change the road layout rather than just jump into the normal option of, hey, we need to buy properties on one side of the road or the other. But it also allowed us to kind of use it and model, if we take that right turn out because we know the numbers, what's the impact on upstream and downstream? Yeah. So without using modeling tools, we could sort of use the tool to help us model the changes that we wanted to make. Yeah,
like the impact.
Which in terms of property purchase has been significant in the way we've been able to design out the purchase of a significant number of properties.
Well, you've just touched on another thing, the interaction between this tool and the models we use. And I think that's another thing that we had to try and get the best out of both tools in a sense, because our models we've locked in some future points in the future, really. We're looking at 2028, 2030, and all the way through. And that's all based on population, jobs, and all of those forecasts. And based on that, we know where the growth is going to happen, and then we'll say, this is how people are going to travel. And we
Mm.
assume, the model assumes that everyone would make a perfect decision. They have perfect information. They're all going to be finding the shortest route to the destinations. So what we had to do was use that model in a sense, but our starting point was the actual data from the store to be able to validate and confirm some of those assumptions.
So has this changed the way that you know, well, it sounds to me has changed your approach on maybe some of your normal procedures that you did? For example,
yeah.
saying, you know, without using a modeling platform, you're able to get a certain amount of data at a certain point, using either historical information as well, and getting some kind of baseline. And I think that's quite important sometimes, because there's a lot of data that you can get from the platform itself, you know, before you need to start doing something else as well. So it does give you that insight. And that's what I love about our platform, in giving the users the ability to granularly investigate. I always say to some of my clients, this is basically an investigation tool, or a suite for you, that allows you to really deep dive. It's not just giving you a number, you know, sometimes, and giving you that class. It's letting you play with that data and look at these, you know, if this would happen, or if this was reduced, or if I see this on a certain aspect, as Andy rightly mentioned, it's allowed you to look at other options that you probably wouldn't have maybe looked at the beginning, and just gone in for that property kind of purchase, because you just haven't got the ability to drill down into that data. And I think, you know, it's another thing that we have a challenge with some of on the market and the industry, because we're not completely disrupting, but we're kind of challenging some of the normal procedures and processes that you go through, and it's changing the way companies are adapting their approach to the next step within their projects, of just going through the normal process. And I think this is the key thing at sometimes. And it's brilliant to see that how you've kind of you know, embraced the software and looked at this information in a subjective way, because, you know, some people also usually, you know, AI and deep learning, they're like, well, you know, I'm not too sure if I'm trusting this. And I know we did manual checks as well to get the accuracy and to give you that confidence. And this is exactly perfect to see and hear, you know, how you're using it. I also wanted just to maybe ask Andy, just on his side as well, with deployment. I know you're involved in your team, was, you know, involved in that from a deployment aspect of using the system, and what you were doing with manual counters and so on, or video counting. Is there any kind of comparison you could give there, Andy, or, you know, the simplicity of using the system versus what you were doing?
So yeah, it's so much simpler, Chris, and you're right. You know, it was a little bit of there was a learning curve for us. You'll remember the first sets of cameras, we were trying to kind of shoehorn. Yeah, that's why you're smiling. You know, we were trying to shoehorn some of our traffic cameras, and they were far from ideal. You know, they tended to be on corners of intersections. We wanted to see turn movements. So I think we learned very quickly that it was worth the effort of maybe going in on a Sunday night, popping a fixed camera up from a cherry picker for a week, at the ideal height, the ideal setback from the intersection, to give us the full range of movements. And I think we tend to get them right now. So, and we're still learning. You know, Harry mentioned before, we've done some on the Northern Motorway, and we were interested, it's part of the T2 lane, and we're interested in how many people were adhering to two people in the car. So we ran a couple of cameras, you may recall, and we've used them to look at whether there's one person, or we can't see that we do have side-mounted cameras of our own, but we were keen on just looking at the front view and making a very rough assessment of whether people were abiding by the rules. We tried two cameras, two different types of cameras. One of them was One was excellent, but sort of bleached out as the day brightened, and the other was too dull. So we're constantly trialing things, because the efforts in getting there, establishing site, having traffic management, the cost and the effort isn't in putting two different model cameras. So we'd rather put 2 cameras, load 2 lots, do some quick analysis, and say, hey, that's the best one. That's the one that we want to put through to the platform.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we always appreciate the support from you and the team as well. You know, some things we learn, some things you advise us. Occasionally we go our own way and then realize we should have listened to you, and we've been there before as well. The other one I was just going to mention, just on the back of what Haroon was saying, was an interesting thing happened today, because we were talking about the modelers. We were trying to work out the optimum length of some turn bays, you know, left and right turn bays. And I went to the modelers and said, hey, can you run through the model and work this out for me? And Chris's response was, why don't you just go into GoodVision and work the numbers out for yourself? Because your numbers there will be more accurate than my model. You know, and that's what we've done. So I'll go through them and I'll give the GoodVision outputs to the modeler, and he'll just do a quick verification.
Yeah, I think Andy's touched on something as a design component of it. Because, for example, the turn-and-base situation, a vehicle length, really, you leave the gap between, you think about a 5 meter, just to allow allowance for different vehicle sizes. And then so you walk backwards, you look at the actual numbers actually turning, and you can estimate the length of storage that you need to provide, and then feed that into the design. So we've used the tool along those lines as well. So it's kind of a tool that we all have on our computers every day, running about doing things now, in a sense. So it's just grown in a sense on us, and getting a bit more dependent. Even our modelers are still asking for stuff. So I think it's a value of the machine, of automation. One is the first thing. And then the next element is the immersive component of it, where you can lock in, you can do what if scenarios, you can see if only this lane was not there, or these numbers were out, and then you automatically, things that would take you hours to generate, you just draw a line and click to them, and it gets counted for you. And I think that's a huge difference. Yeah,
exactly.
In nowadays. So I think that's the thing. That's the time that's freed up for me personally.
This is the thing as well. Just touching on this, that not saying that it's a replacement for modelling. It's not that. No. It's a very good way of verification of using 2 systems of, as Andy mentioned, you know, if you've got a model and then you can kind of verify between 2 models, you've got that extra kind of layer of, okay, that's making sense. You know, there's 2 systems with these numbers and it's giving the same output. This is, you know, pretty much spot on. And then it's allowing you, if there is some difference, to investigate a little bit more and see what's happening. So, you know, that's really nice insight to see, and I'm happy to see that.
The modeling, sorry, Andy. I think they need to complement each other, because the modeling is kind of predicting some future timeline, time horizon, and say this is what we think should happen as a focus. But the more accurate the prediction, you want it's probably dependent on your starting point. So what is the current reality? And I think that's the fundamental. When that's wrong, and then the projections, the factors you apply, it all gets amplified, and the error just amplified all the way through. So I think I see that in the future, we potentially use the 2. This is a starting point, get the current reality grounded, and project from that into the future.
Exactly.
And I think that's
a good foundation for that. Then that will give you the output you're looking for. Because as you mentioned, I see in the industry most times is everything's using statistical approach, and from the, as you said, historical data from a certain point, we'll add this factor in, and that's fine in some cases, but it's not, as you said, getting the ground truth of today, of what's going on. And with COVID and everything that's going on in the world, the traffic and the way people use and interact with intersections changes from day to year to month. It's completely like a living network itself. So to kind of base things on historical data sometimes for me is a bit crazy, because it's like, that's not the real ground truth that you need to look at. Yes, you can get some statistics and stats from that, but as you mentioned, if you've got the real-time ground truth, use that as your base and then move forward, you're going to get a better output and result. I'm conscious of time, so we might need to just move on a little. But is there anything else, sorry, you want to say, Andy?
No, so I was only going to briefly say the other thing that aids that is the video playback.
Yeah.
So people will be critical or can be critical of models, and how do you know that the model's correct?
Yeah.
Well, what we can show them with the tool is we can show them with the tool. If people query these things, it's not just about showing them the analytics that come out. It's the fact that we can play back and actually show them the movements that we're talking about and kind of show them the numbers.
The validation.
Yes.
Exactly.
Anyway, we've probably taken up enough of your time.
No, that's fine. It's for you guys anyway. So I'm just going to probably just move on into the actual introducing or looking at our new products. I mean, thank you guys for that insight. It was brilliant, and I'm looking forward to continue working with you. And probably that drives us into like the next topic of like the live monitoring or live traffic. It's our newest addition to the GoodVision portfolio of products. So this kind of like I know that you guys are excited to start a POC with this and look at using the live traffic functionality of the system. So I'll kind of what I'm going to do is give a little intro to the product, what it's doing and what it's for, and I'll show you also a live demo from the platform. We usually call it a walkthrough. Just to give you that insight and feel. So people that are on the call or know GoodVision, you've all maybe tried or using our GoodVision Video Insights platform. You're uploading your videos and you're getting your data and doing your analysis. And GoodVision has taken that to the next level. The next level in the sense of the using the state-of-the-art technology and solution that is, to me, always seems futuristic of what it can do. You might have all seen our like YouTube link where we have one of the cameras outside our offices and it's doing live monitoring. So the live traffic products that we've launched or really started to push this year is the ability to have your data as you have on the platform, but without having to upload the data from your video management server or uploading that into the system. You can now simply have an edge device or a box PC, a server, there's many deployment options, placed on location, and simply plug in your camera to the edge device. Again, cameras, there's no kind of lock-in, whatever you're using or you have, as long as it has a certain parameters and quality, because clarity and quality is always a key thing for the computer vision. And with the edge device, I'll just give you a little image here. So the edge device can be either within a cabinet, it can be outside. We have rugged recommended devices that can withstand the conditions of weather from all the way to -40 all the way up to +70, and these fanless devices. And the edge unit is situated here. You can see in the middle of the kind of map or the infrastructure. And this is a basic infrastructure map. And as I mentioned, the live monitoring is allowing you to connect the camera and the edge device to the platform. and do all the analytics that you are used to and seeing today, but giving you a lot, even more instant data. So the system is monitoring and classifying and doing all the processing that it does on the platform from your video extraction and giving you that instantly to your platform based on the lines and zones and the parameters that you set up. So you can now get instant information of that intersection at that time. And then as well, you can go back later and you can analyze that and look at that information as you do with your videos. But the most important thing is it's not just giving you the data instantly, which is pretty impressive in my point, but also allowing you to customize parameters of alerts that can be sent out to various third-party systems, or to even reports that are generated automatically, or for example, on our YouTube video, we have a custom parameter of a speeding vehicle. So when a vehicle is doing a certain speed, it flashes red. It's a condition that we've added to the live monitoring. And basically what that's doing is then sending, or can send, an alert to someone that there is something happening on this this zone or this area. It's the same with vehicles parked in an area that shouldn't be there. This can be set up as an alert system that notifies the user, or notifies the platform that there are vehicles in an area that shouldn't be. So it's a lot more real-time now, interactive, and I think, again, it's going to be a changer, because it's limited only to what the user basically can think of, or what you want to implement. And as you can see here on the infrastructure map, you can have up to 4 cameras being processed on an edge unit. You don't have to have 4, you can have 1 running, but you can have up to. The edge unit, again, just processes the data on site. So all this GDPR compliance and everything is housed on location. No data or sensitive information, no sensitive information and the privacy of that data is compromised. It's all done on location. There's no recording of video. And that data is either transmitted over a fixed network, or it's even sent over LTE from the device directly to the platform in GoodVision, as you can see here. Or the events and the traffic data can go through to your third-party reporting system. So as I mentioned, if you need some alerts, if you need some notifications, if you need some reports, it can be sent to another system to get that data. So it's really opening up now the ability to look and investigate your intersections, your highways in real time. So you can basically see what's going on now, and you can also look at the data backwards and build that historic data, that true historic data up of the real-time analytics. So what I want to do now is I'm going to share my my screen and share a different screen, sorry, and just give you an idea of what this looks like. Okay, so hopefully now you can see my screen in the background here of the GoodVision platform. And everyone is used to this view. This is what you get when you log into the system. And what you'll notice now that when you're logging in, or if you are going to use the live traffic monitoring, you'll be able to add a device. So what this means is that either yourself or whoever you have as an independent integrator, or someone that is looking after your hardware, we can recommend the piece of hardware that's required, because it's all off the shelf. It's not anything that we manufacture ourselves. We have recommended devices that we can recommend to you. You can purchase these from the supplier, and you can use your own camera sets, and you can have these devices installed. And once you have the device installed on the location, what we do is that we remote connect, or you remote connect the device or enable the device to your system. And what that means is that when you're connecting a device or a live monitoring piece of kit here, is that on the location here, or when you're adding a device, you're able to add an edge unit. So you might have a network of edge units all around your city, and you'll be connecting the edge unit here and connecting the device, the stream, and it will enable that device and start the recording. Here we have one processing. To give you an example of when you've added your devices, you might have multiple devices all over the city or region or wherever, and you can monitor them and get all that data on the platform as you're doing with your video uploads. So if I look at this now, it's the same describe scene that you're used to. You've got your classes here, and what you're doing is you can set your conditions. So this is the basic setting of your conditions, and obviously in the background, our implementation team can also do the other alerts and alarms, and things like this can be set up from our side. So we can fully give you a custom parameters that you want for this scene, have it set up, and then it will be live and processing and sending you that data. So here we've got the ability to set the zones, set the lines, do the movements. And what we do then, once the camera is enabled, it's kind of click play, and it will start monitoring and analyzing the scene. And what you'll see here is we've got some widgets that we've activated, and it's enabled. So you can see that it's on live. And if we go down, we can see that the system is doing like a live count. It's counting the vehicles, it's classifying the vehicles, it's giving these outputs again on the widgets that I can create. So as per the system platform, you're able to select all the parameters that you want and just basically get that as a live piece of data. So again, you can have all your acceleration heat maps, your classifications, your trajectories, and you can have that updating and created from the system here. Obviously, these ones are the snapshots of the times that we've selected, but you've got the data that's constantly coming in, so you can update and look at these widgets as you're working. So we see this really as a game changer in not only removing the how do you say, GDPR kind of compliance with data being shifted around from server to people and so on. It's going directly from the device. It's metadata that is transferred from the device on location and sent to the platform. All the snapshots that we have here are basically motion blurred. So there's, again, no kind of identifying information that is able to be seen from the scenes here. And the metadata has been constantly fed into the platform. So then you can log in and start doing your analytics and creating your reports manually, or having them automated, sent to a certain email address every 24 hours, every hour, in the configuration that you want. So if you're looking to get this configuration in the vehicle lists, the TMC reports in every 15 minutes, all that can be automated and sent to you. So you're just basically checking on the reports and doing your monitoring of the intersection. Of course, there's different applications, from monitoring for safety purposes, which is a constant thing, and then also looking at this as a kind of information point of gathering of what's going on the intersection to give you alerts of congestion, traffic buildup. You can actually start to have a live network and make decisions according to your traffic light system. So we did a very successful pilot project with Telelink, and we had a webinar about that, using the system to look and help with the phasing of their traffic lights, and using that live information to have an adaptive intersection. So when the traffic lights needed to adjust to help with the congestion, it could make that decision based on the data that we're feeding. And going back to from Haroon and from Andy, that true baseline data is very important to help you make them decisions. And this is why the live traffic monitoring, or the live traffic product, is going to help and give that assistance. The other thing I mentioned with deployments, there is very varied methods of deployment that can be customized for each user or client that is looking at this system. It can be a kind of hybrid of on-premise and connectivity to the cloud, to the platform. It can be in certain ways. And if you have any interest, or you're looking to implement something like this to your systems, please get in contact with us, and we can discuss your infrastructure and look at how this can be placed. If you need it to be, kind of quick and instant deployment, that's why we have the Edge unit that you can just stick up on a pole, connect it to your camera, connect the device, and then you can go live. There's a 2-week setup on that. So our implementation team, once it's all installed, are setting that up with you, going over the enablement, and then once that's go live, you're able to then start having the information sent to you directly. And as mentioned, with all our systems, you're able to have a trial of the GoodVision platform. So some of you that don't know about GoodVision and you want to kind of trial the system, you can register for free, and you can have the ability to try this out for yourself. And just wanted to, hopefully you can just re-see my screen again. So just going to go to this next slide. So you're able to, as mentioned, register, have a 14-day free trial. We'll give you some credits. You're able to then test this yourself, have a play around with the system. We can talk about as well your kind of implementation, if it's a cloud processing approach you need, a hybrid on-premise. These possibilities are also available to be used on the system. I also wanted to mention, and as well, because of our webinar is based in New Zealand with the guys there, we do have an authorized partner in New Zealand. So this is Cactus. So if you need to speak to someone in a decent time, these are the guys that you can speak to locally within the kind of Asia Pacific area as well. So if you want to speak or look at the system from GoodVision, Cactus also can help you in getting the GoodVision system implemented, setting up equipment and so on as required, offering services to help and give you that insight. So I know we're kind of going over here, so apologize for everyone that's the over of the meeting, but I think it's been quite valuable for us. I'd like to kind of open this up maybe for some questions and give you some answers. If anyone's got anything they would like to ask our guests, myself, please do. I can put your mic on and you can either answer or you can write in the chat. I think we've got some questions on there, so we can have a look and answer them. But I don't know if any of our panelists, do you want to say anything further? Is there anything you'd like to add to today's webinar at this time? No? Okay, no problem. So let's have a look at maybe some of the questions that we've got through. Dan, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. That's all right. I had someone come through that they couldn't see the presentation, but if you can see, hopefully everyone else has that. Oh, Dan's been answering questions, so that's good. Well done, Dan. He's gone through. You've got some of your answers on the chat here. Everyone will get a sheet with the answers and questions anyway. If you've missed that, we can get. But is there anyone that has a live question you'd like to ask? Haroon, Andy, Daniel, me. If there's anyone that has any kind of question you want to ask, now's your time. Have your moment of fame, or we can can kind of then finish off anything. I don't see anything at the minute, but if something pops up, you've still got some time. I'd like to thank Andy and Haroon for attending and giving your insight and working with us with GoodVision. Look forward to maybe setting up another webinar when we install and get the live traffic going and giving another insight from that. But yeah, thank you very much for your attendance today, to everyone, and to Andy and Haroon.
And thanks, Chris, because particularly with live monitoring, that's something we were certainly interested in. So the presentation this evening was really timely from our point of view. It's got me thinking perhaps I've been focusing on the wrong things. So we'll sit down and work through with you and the team the best scenarios for us to implement. So we'll be in touch with you soon on that.
Sure. I mean, as I said, Andy, with the live monitoring or the live traffic, the products, we can tailor your scenario. So, you know, if you're looking at certain points of information, let's have the discussion of what you're looking to get, and we can say what's possible and what you can get live, and we can set that up. And once it's, you know, up and running, that information will be constantly fed to you. So this is the live monitoring is a bit more of a kind of a customization of data, basically, that you can get sent to you, as well as, you know, what you do normally from now on the platform. It's just giving you that instant information straight away to your data set.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. I think actually there is some questions in the chat. I think we've got from G Howard, and we've seen one here for once cameras are in place, what are the costs? Okay, that's always the favorite question, costs. So let's address that. So the live monitoring is an addition, or a how do you say, complementary, not complement, it's a complement to the GoodVision platform. So of course you have to have a subscription to our platform, you have to have a surveyor plan, or a modeler plan. And what this does is, instead of using credits, instead of purchasing credits, which you use against the hours that you're uploading and processing, the live traffic monitoring is a monthly installment. So you pay one set amount, and there's 3 tiers depending on how many cameras you have and what's required. So there's 3 tiers that we have. And then 3 tiers are a monthly amount per stream. So when you have a camera set up, you will pay for that stream. It's 24/7. It's processing and giving you all that data that you've set up and supplying that constantly. So it's when you're looking at maybe a more longer term or heavy data-driven project, you would be looking at the live traffic monitoring to reduce the cost of doing like a 24-hour process. But as mentioned, you're getting a lot more with the alerts, you're getting the reports sent out to you and so on, kind of automated. So it's a very a better option. And this is why we always like to talk to you know, you guys and our clients, and to understand what you're looking to achieve, and then fitting the product to your needs, not giving you something that you're not going to be using or not useful. So please, I encourage you, everyone, to get in contact with us. We can discuss your kind of project scopes and what you're looking to get, and then we can fit which kind of mode or product is required for you. So yeah, please reach out to us. So hopefully that answers on the questions. On pricing, I won't give it directly, but it is on our website. So you can go and see there, but that's usually based on the amount of cameras that your streams that you will have. And it's very kind of, if you've got a project and you want some specifics, get in contact with me. I'll give you a quotation based on your streams and your project, and give you some kind of price guide for that. Hopefully I answered the question, Jiha. Brilliant. Okay, so I don't think I've had anything else come through. Dan's been very effective. So thank you everyone for joining today's meeting, well, the webinar. Look forward to seeing you all again, and everyone stay safe. And I thank you for being with us today, and look forward to speaking to you all again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Harun and Andy. And everybody enjoy your day.